Is the whole government in on this?
We're all South Park doesn't cross political lines. It detonates them. Presidents cry, dictators explode, and everyone gets roasted equally. No party, no policy, no ego is safe. Some jokes were so wild they sparked outrage, bans, and collective gasps. Today, we revisit when satire went completely off the rails.
Whoa! Now we'll ask the same
When South Park set its sights on Bill Clinton, it didn't just poke fun. It brought a flamethrower. The show premiered in 1997, right as Clinton's second term was rolling along and just before the Lewinsky scandal exploded into headlines. Perfect timing? Oh, absolutely. Trey Parker and Matt Stone saw history happening and said, yes, but what if we make it way worse? Instead of subtle jokes or clever metaphors, South Park went straight for maximum absurdity. Clinton's alleged sex life became an ongoing gag, complete with over-the-top dialogue about 40th trimester abortions and bizarre policy promises that sounded less like presidential platforms and more like something scribbled on a bar napkin at 2 a.m. The White House, in South Park logic, wasn't a seat of power. It was basically a frat house with better furniture. One of the most infamous moments had Leanne Cartman literally sleeping her way into the White House, turning political scandal into cartoon chaos. Even simple words like adoption became jokes, spiraling into uncomfortable, hilarious misunderstandings that only South Park could stretch into full-blown cringe comedy. And the show didn't stop when Clinton left office. Years later, he pops up again, this time in a celebrity rehab class alongside Tiger Woods, David Letterman, and other scandal veterans. When asked how he ended up there, Clinton gives an answer so graphic that the room grows uncomfortable, and the audience laughs in pure shock. Add in cigar jokes, rude comments about Kyle's mom, and a punch bowl metaphor, and you've got peak South Park savagery. When South Park went after George W. Bush, it didn't do it with rage or speeches. It did it with pure, cartoon-grade nonsense. Compared to other shows of the time, South Park didn't constantly paint Bush as some evil mastermind. Instead, it asked a much simpler question: is this man okay? In one of the show's most gloriously goofy moments, Bush addresses the United Nations with what he confidently calls intelligence. The bombshell? Saddam Hussein is secretly building weapons of mass destruction in heaven. Yes, heaven. Clouds, harps, angels, and hidden missile factories. According to Bush, the US even tried to confirm this by contacting Saddam through a psychic, because apparently the CIA was busy that day. Naturally, the world leaders listening have questions, big ones, like how did Saddam even get into heaven in the first place? Bush, unfazed, calmly explains that Saddam was kicked out of hell after a messy breakup with Satan. You see, Satan dumped him, started dating a guy named Chris, and when Saddam got jealous and tried to murder the new boyfriend, Satan sent him to heaven to live with Mormons as punishment, because nothing says eternal suffering like polite smiles and Jell-O salads. The best part? In the show's twisted canon, every word Bush says is technically true, which only makes things worse. By the end, people aren't debating foreign policy. They're asking whether the president is stupid or secretly high. Bush clears one thing up immediately. He's definitely not high. The other question? Let's just say South Park leaves that one floating gently, somewhere between heaven and common sense. Well, that's one way to take it too far with an ex-president, for God's sake. Give him some common sense. If South Park tells the truth through jokes, are we laughing at politicians or at ourselves? South Park fans sometimes forget that Donald Trump technically showed up way back in season 5, briefly, quietly, and without setting democracy on fire. But once Trump became a full-time political headline generator years later, the creators decided reality was already too weird, so they did what South Park does best. They handed the chaos to Mr. Garrison. Instead of a direct Trump parody, Garrison became the stand-in, loud, unfiltered, and emotionally unpredictable, like a Twitter feed with legs. When Trump lost the 2020 election to Joe Biden, Garrison stepped away from politics and returned to civilian life, casually greeting old acquaintances as if he hadn't just traumatized the nation. Normal stuff. Very chill. That piece lasted about 5 minutes, When Trump announced a 2024 comeback in 2022, Garrison felt the call of the rally like a moth to a flame, or like Garrison to a microphone. Despite promising his boyfriend Rick that they were just going to Myrtle Beach for a relaxing getaway, sun, sand, and romance, Garrison immediately relapsed into campaign mode. Suddenly, he's bad-mouthing Mexicans, Biden, and reality itself, surrounded by cheering partygoers who think volume equals truth. He confidently declares election victories he definitely did not win, insists Arizona is his again, and generally treats facts like optional side quests. The episode ends on a beautifully awkward note. Garrison doesn't take Georgia or Arizona, but he does emotionally cling to Rick, calling him his boo in front of everyone. Yes, he said boo out loud. Awkward, right? I thought as much. We can only wonder what their facial reactions were when they heard it. It's classic South Park. Rallies, denial, chaos, and just enough romance to make everyone deeply uncomfortable.
Giant Douche still wins! Yeah!
When South Park tackled Barack Obama, it didn't attack him with explosions, insults, or cartoon violence. Instead, it did something far more unsettling. It made you stop and think, then laugh uncomfortably. With the economy collapsing, the town of South Park behaves like it's been abandoned by the financial gods. Mortgages are failing, houses are disappearing, and even grandma is getting a very rushed goodbye. It's panic, despair, and recession anxiety turned into a full-blown cartoon apocalypse. No speeches, no hope. Just vibes and bad ones. Then comes Kyle, in a move so selfless it almost feels illegal in South Park. He sacrifices everything to pay off the town's debts. No cameras, no applause, just quiet responsibility. For a brief moment, it seems like sanity might actually win. But this is South Park, so of course it doesn't last. Randy and people like him immediately start buying useless junk again, proving that no lesson sticks when credit cards exist. And here's where things get weird, as it always does when it comes to South Park and its shenanigans. Kyle expects at least a thank you, maybe a plaque, a parade, anything. Instead, the news announces the true hero who saved America from financial ruin, President Barack Obama. The cameras roll, the praise pours in, and Kyle watches as his sacrifice is completely erased by a politician happily accepting the spotlight. The episode doesn't ask if Obama was good or bad. It asks a question that's more uncomfortable. In a world obsessed with narratives, does the truth even matter? Or does credit always go to whoever's already on TV? Subscribe right now, or South Park will turn you into the next giant turd sandwich.
I got a $100 check from my grandma, and my dad said I need to put it in the bank so it can grow over the years.
When the 2004 election rolled around, America asked the big, serious question, Bush or Kerry? South Park, meanwhile, looked at the entire political system, squinted a little, and asked something far more accurate. Giant douche or turd sandwich? That's it. That's the choice. No debates, no policy breakdowns. Just a shiny, overconfident giant douche versus a warm, unapologetic turd sandwich. In classic South Park fashion, this earth-shattering decision is played out not on a national stage, but at South Park Elementary, where the kids must vote for a new mascot. And somehow, this feels exactly like real life. The candidates argue, insult each other, and repeatedly scream "turd sandwich" like it's a legally binding title. One of them even demands, with full confidence, "I will ask you not to speak out of turd," which is possibly the greatest sentence ever spoken in a political context. Matt Stone and Trey Parker didn't even bother pretending they cared who won the real election. They openly hated both options, and the episode makes that painfully clear. No names are mentioned, but the shade is so obvious it needs sunscreen. Viewers are left trying to decode the symbolism like it's a college exam. Is Bush the turd? Is Kerry the douche? Or is the real joke that it doesn't even matter? Honestly, what do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comment section. In the end, the turd sandwich loses, Bush wins the presidency, and yet, somehow, the giant douche still wins too, which perfectly sums up American politics. No matter who you vote for, you still feel like you lost, and you're not sure why there's poop involved. Click the next video, or risk missing the craziest chaos South Park has ever unleashed.